Hey there folks. So in our video so far for our top down character we have the ability to move to the right, to the left, up and down, and obviously they allow us to move around our world in the top down view. But what about if I want to start adding animations onto here? Now you could look at our side scroller character and you could say, okay, well let's make it nice and simple and say, well, if we are standing still, we are idle. If we have some speed, then obviously we should walk. But what happens if we want to walk in the opposite direction? What happens if we walk up and down? Now that's very easy to do in things like the side scroller, because pretty much we just have the walking animation, the idle animation, and we just use the kind of the rotation of the camera, allowing us to look at it from the opposite side, to flip our character around and rotate. But what about with the top down? Now I've got multiple different top down examples here, and the reason for that is because what I want to really talk about is the fact that every sprite sheet, every asset pack that you get is going to be completely different in what they have. So I've got the ones from the Towers game, and you can see here the Warrior Simple version. If I go and have a look at the flipbooks, I've literally just got these 5 here. I've got a run, and I've got an idle, I've got a guard, and 2 attacks. Now, there's no directionality on these. There's no up attack, left attack, right attack. It's just a case of I'm going to be attacking forward and backward. And that's going to be nice and easy if we use what we already know about just flipping it over, facing it in the opposite direction. Now, there is also a Warrior Advanced. And you can see what I've done with the Warrior Advanced. And I'll just show you the texture sheet for that one. You can see that there's a lot more in here. And we'll also start noticing that there's downwards facing ones and upwards facing ones. So here, if we go and have a look at the flipbooks for these, we've got attacking up, attacking to the right, and attacking down. And there's 2 versions of the attack. But there's only one idle and there's only one run. So again, we're looking at this and going, well, if the character is standing still or if they're moving, we're just going to take this one animation state and just flip it over. But what about if we got something like this top-down hero that I have here? You can see there's a lot more animations created and saved inside of this sprite sheet. And if I start having a look at his animations, what you'll notice is I've got a down, a right, and an up version of my idle. A down, a right, and an up version of my walk. Things like Pokemon and very kind of like old school RPGs will have very similar things where if our character's moving up, we'll potentially be looking at the back of them. And if they're moving down, they'll be moving down directly facing the camera. So how do we go about getting it so that we've got all of these different elements? How do we go about getting it so that we can have 3 or 4 different animations? Because this one only has a right, it doesn't have a left. Some animation sheets that you find will have a left version. So how do we go about getting that in? Well, for this hero, what I've done is I've created the ZD source, and if I open that out, you'll see that I've created an animation for every single one of those. And if I open it out and have a look at his flipbooks, you'll see I've got idle, but instead of making idle down, idle right, and idle up, which would require my animation blueprint having 3 different states, and I'll have to filter with those states whether I'm idle but facing to the left or facing to the right or facing up or facing down, we've just got one state saying we are idle, we are walking. Now, these are quite easy. Looking at something like Death, for example. Death, we're going to look at this one and we're going to say, well, there's one animation for Death. It doesn't really matter whether he's facing to the right, the up or down. When he dies, that is the one we will use. So there you go. He ends up playing this Death animation. Nice and easy. But what about if he's idle? Well, I could, as I said, go into here and say, well, we've got idle down. Maybe I just put in the idle down. And that's going to work, but I now need an idle right and I need an idle up. And this is where this tick box over here comes in handy. So you can see on asset details, underneath there, we've got this multi-directional sequence. And what this is going to do is it's going to say this animation sequence that we have doesn't just contain one piece of animation data, it contains multiple pieces of animation data, each of them handling a different direction. So if we tick this, what we're now going to see is this lovely little graph and like diagram, and it's going to basically give us a bunch of different options. The first one, this N, is how many points we have on this, and the default of this is 4, which is perfect for what we've got here because we've got an up quadrant, a right, a left, and a down. Now you could go further with this, you could turn this into an 8, and now you've got up, right, but we also have an up and right, or an up and left. So if you've got 8-way movement on your character sheets, then obviously you can go all the way to having this amount of detail. You could go to 6. You can see here I could have up left and down left without actually having a full left animation. But I'm going to go back to just the 4 for now. The other thing that I would point out is the angle, and the angle is basically a rotational value that is assigned onto this. So you can see here, if I were to apply 45 degrees to this, it flips this round. So we've got up left and up right, but we don't have an upwards direction. Now, this is, again, very situational. It depends what you've got on your sprite sheet. It depends on how you're using this. Do you need an up? So something like 6. This might be useful to say, well, actually, I want to have a flat top to the top of here. So maybe I would go, 30 degrees round, and I can split these into up left and up right, left and right, and down left and down right. Yeah, that's a little bit easier. And then we've got just those kind of facings. We're going to face one way or face the other way, and we're either going to be up, left, or down with it. But I'll leave that one up to you based on what you're doing. The key thing here is that we have the multi-directionals. And what I've now got is I've got this one that's automatically been assigned here for this top quadrant to use my idle. Well, here it's using idle down, so that's obviously wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we'll change this to idle up. I'm going to now select the one for down, and you can see when I click in this shape, the green dot is representing where this is being mapped to. So if I go down to the bottom, you'll see that the animation node that is being assigned to here is empty. So let's give this one our hero one. What I'll do, I'll make it nice and easy to find. So I'll find this one in the content browser, select the one I need, go to here and just assign it. We'll go to the right one. And again, what we'll do is we'll just open up our content browser and we'll select the right one. And I can put the left one, the right one into the left one here. If you've got a left animation, perfect, put the left one in. What we're going to have to do is worry about the fact that actually we only have a right. So if we want to flip our character over to go the opposite direction, we're going to have to actually flip the actor over and do some kind of blueprint functionality in order to handle that, to flip this over. Obviously, you could go into the sprites, you could edit them, you could make your own left-hand side if you really wanted to. There are some categories you can see here, so you could come through here and start setting these up. Maybe a category that you use is indicating whether they are multi-directional or not. But now what you can see is I can jump around in this sequence in order to create a whole bunch of different animations. And that's all looking very good. So let's just do that one more time. Remember, double click on the animation to load it. Multi-directional. The top one here is going to be my walking, and we're going to be looking at walking up. The one to the right is going to be my walk right, and plug that in there. Plug it in the left as well, and then we've got our walk down for the bottom one. So now with that playing, you can see that depending on what my character was doing, whether they were up, right, or down, I'm basically going to go into one state and say, you are in the walking state, but I'll be able to feed some data into here to help it to decide, well, I may be in this state in this animation sequence, but which one of these flipbooks should I be using? So obviously go into there and set up your animation sequences. Go and set up the multi-directional sequences for each one of those. And once those are done, what we can then do is go into our animation blueprint and start using these. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to access more of my Unreal Engine content.